Okay, please take your seats. So for this next section, we'll actually change it up a little bit. We'll start with some questions first that help get you thinking about the concepts. One of the things that Dr. Goldschmidt said this morning was that in the cartoon he showed that laboratory personnel are a most critical aspect in laboratory quality control, and so it's perfectly fitting for this next section. So if you have your devices, the first question we have is a practice question. I assess competency, and we should say competency of your laboratory personnel, your staff. And number two means sometimes, but not on a scheduled plan. Okay? We'll close. Great, 64% regularly per scheduled plan. Another question about practice. My lab's educational activity is comprised of. Good. A lot of people use both internal and external speakers and trainers. A few leave it up to the individual. Continuous or continuing education should be mandated by the government. There's no neutral answer here. By design. And it's a mix. Mostly agree to strongly agree, and some disagree. He said they're from the Netherlands. This is not really an opinion, but it is another practice. How do you assess competency in your lab? And you could have, in this one, I know that it could be multiple. Just pick the one that's most valuable to you. And direct observation. Great. Last for this section, how much time should each person in your lab spend on education annually? And it's a mix, somewhere between 10 and 40 hours for the most part. Okay? Good. So these questions maybe will help you think a little bit about the next two presentations, and then we can have some discussion following the presentations. So unfortunately, Dr. David Burnett was not able to be with us and delivering a presentation in his place is Dr. Mauro Pabani at the University of Padova, well known to many of you. He also happens to have the distinction of doing 2 presentations in the next 2 days. Dr. Pabani, again, well known and editor of CCLM and a strong supporter and been with this program for the last several years. Welcome, Dr. Pabani.
Dear colleagues, good morning. I'm very sorry, but I thank for the introduction. The first thing I have to say is that David Barnett sent his greetings to the meeting and to all participants and apologize for his absence that is due to a problem, a familiar problem. Okay. So, just to be sure, this is David Barnett. This is me. So the today presentation by David Barnett deals with the assessment of competence in the context of the 3rd edition of the ISO 15189, the accreditation standard for medical laboratories, and the International Standardization Organization principle of quality management. Fortunately, David and me strongly believe that at the end of the year, we will have the release of the 3rd edition of the international standard. And so this should help us to improve the accreditation in our countries, in our labs, and in addition, the assessment of competence. So as you can see in this slide, the outline of this presentation prepared by David deals with the International Standardization Organization quality principle, particularly involvement of people. We would like to define what is competence, particularly in laboratory medicine. We will deal a little bit with the international standard 15189 and personnel management. We will deal thereafter with the competence assessment and performance appraisal, which is much more complicated. And finally, what competence is to be assessed. So first of all, as you can see in this slide, the ISO, the International Standardization Organization quality principle are customer focused first, leadership at the second point, involvement of people at this point, and assessment of competence fall into this area according to the next step, that is process approach, system approach to management, continual improvement, factual approach to decision making, and finally, mutually beneficial supplier relationship. But in particular, today, we would like to stress this point that people at all levels, and particularly in clinical or medical laboratories, are the essence of an organization. And I'm sure that you share with me this vision. And their full involvement enables their abilities to be used for the organization benefit. So the key message is that training and assessment of competence are essential parts of this approach to involving people, and through the involvement of people, improve the organization quality and the outcome of our work in everyday clinical practice. So, in this slide, you can show the quality principle involvement of people that typically leads to a better understanding the importance or their contribution and role in the organization, identifying constraints to their performance, which is particularly important in the laboratory field, and accepting ownership of problems and their responsibility for solving them. And this is absolutely a key point in the risk management strategies according to the view of not only Reason, but many other pioneers in risk management strategies. And in addition, evaluating their performance against their personal goals and objectives, actively seeking opportunities to enhance their competence, knowledge, and experience, freely sharing knowledge and experience, finally openly discussing problems and issues. So basically, these are the principles. And this is the definition of competence. As you can see, the definition is demonstrated ability to apply knowledge and skills. And I like to underline demonstrated. That means that the key word is that we need to have evidence of this ability to apply knowledge and skills. And demonstrated personal attributes and demonstrate ability to apply knowledge and skills. Again, the key word is demonstrated. We need to have evidence and to show evidence to the third part accreditation agency and the national accreditation bodies. Going to the international standard for laboratory accreditation, ISO 15189, in the third edition coming in a few months, the sub-clause headings regarding personnel, that is paragraph 5.1, the sub-headings are general personnel qualification, etc., but you can see at this point, 6, competence assessment. So competence assessment is a clear and key point in the requirements regarding personnel of the international standard for laboratory accreditation. This is much more complicated slide, and I like to anticipate this is a page of the forthcoming book prepared by David Barnett for helping clinical laboratory professionals to use the international standard, ISO 15189, particularly the new edition, to be fully realized in our practice. And you can see that regarding there is the need of a close interaction with the training and continual professional development through evaluation of the need of a new existing position in the context of overall laboratory capability. So we need a checklist, post outline. We need a second point, documentation of the job description, person specification, application form. We need to have some guidelines and procedures for recruitment and the selection of the personnel. I know that is some intriguing point, particularly in countries in which policymakers would like to make these guidelines instead of the profession. But we need to have preparation shortlist for interviewing new professional, selection and appointment requirements and guidelines. So we need, at the fourth point, guideline to conduct induction, orientation, and keeps records. This is a very interesting point, as well as the 8th point, you can see the top, that is continuing professional development as appropriate and keep a record of this training. To move to the performance management, joint review and record, personal development plan for each personnel working in the lab, personal development portfolio record and evaluation. And jointly, we have to undertake competence assessment for specific activities and keep training and competence record, linking all these points and interacting with the training to undertake specific activity. It seems complicated, but I'm sure that you know perfectly how you can manage, in principle at least, these tasks. So, in the third edition of the International Standard, there is a clear statement regarding the competence assessment. Which competence we have to assess? So, the sentence said that following appropriate training, the laboratory shall assess the competence of each person to perform assigned management and, not all, and technical tasks. So both management and technical tasks according to established criteria. So we have to deal with both management and technical tasks. And the other interesting statements are: not one, competence of laboratory staff may be assessed by using any combination of all of the following approaches under the same condition as a general working environment. We will see the next slide. And competency assessment for professional judgment should be designed as specific and fit for purposes. So, which approach to competence assessment? This is taken, the guidelines is taken basically from the clear Clinical Laboratory Improvement Act 8080 in the US regulation, but with additional topics. And you can see that direct observation, routine work processes and procedures, so the real world in which you are working, including all applicable safety practice. I like to stress this point. Direct observation of equipment maintenance and function checks. This is our job every day. Monitoring the recording and reporting of examination results. Review of work records. Examination of specially provided samples such as previously examined samples, interlaboratory comparison material, or split samples. And finally, assessment of problem-solving skills. So this is probably an additional note or an additional task. Therefore, in addition to the assessment of technical competence, the laboratory shall ensure that review of staff performance take into consideration the needs of the laboratory, the individual, in order to maintain or improve the quality of service given to the users and encourage productive working relationship. Therefore, in this slide, you can see that we can assess and make appraisal on individual and organizational competence. Individual competence include technical competence, the core of our profession, managerial competence, because this is due in everyday clinical practice in laboratory medicine, and finally, I like to stress professional judgments. That means a lot of things. And finally, organizational competence, putting together the individual task in a well-organized and managed framework. So, management of pre-examination, examination, and post-examination processes, first of all, are the core activities that should be assessed and improved in everyday practice. But in addition, we have to deal with the advice on choice and interpretation of examination results. That is still, and even more important today, a professional competence. And we have to deal with some management issues to Sorry. Is it possible to have the last slide? The last one. Thank you. So the key message to take home is that putting all together this task and the additional value of putting together makes possible an evaluation of a competent organization, such as the laboratory, such as is any laboratory, clinical laboratory or medical laboratory as you want. So I'm sure that I was not so able as David to deliver this lecture, but I try to do my best. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Plebani, for ably stepping in and introducing us to this topic. Next is Dr. Pitts, head of lab, Berlin Buch Helios Clinic, and former senior physician at the University of Mainz here in Germany.
Yes. How do I know that my people are correctly trained? These are two of our two best German soccer players, Sami Khedira and Mesut Özil, playing in Spain, not in Germany. What has soccer to do with laboratory medicine? Next should be next. You have methods of training. You can decide, do you have the right method to train or not? Probably that might be a good method for soccer players. You can assess if your training is successful, at least in the first step, if your whatever lactate measures are correct, or your heartbeat, or your spirometry. You have to think about, do you use the right methods for training? Because these also two German soccer players, Bender and Schmelzer, but they are playing rugby, not soccer there. But I don't know if you know, many soccer players dancing ballet. They do not talk about it, but they do, because it's a good training method for your motorics. And you can ask if you have successful training. Who is looking Champions League finals knows that the better trained team was not successful. So if soccer equals lab or lab equals soccer, you can find very similar things on the easy way. But what I want to talk about, at least for the conclusion, is it's so easy to see in soccer if you are successful or not. You have a result after 90 minutes. I talked to many colleagues and friends from other specialties, not medicine. Do you know if your people are correctly trained or not? And no one said, yes, I know. Everyone, yeah, maybe, and so on. And that's the main difference, I think. And I think that is what we have to work on to see if training is successful. Not if we can evaluate and have numbers for evaluating, but to see if it's successful in the long run. The first talk was about ISO accreditation, and we are dealing with some total quality management systems. This picture is in German, sorry for that, but it was so nice, so I just decided to take the German one. That's European Foundation of Quality Management concept of total quality management and business excellence, and you have many players in this whole concept, but you have the people, Mitarbeiter in German, and they account them for 18% of the success, and all the other 82%, because everything is done by people, more or less. Even it's machines, they are built by people and so on. But I think it's interesting that you can account 18% to the people, whatever it means. And another important point is you are giving results here, Ergebnisse, Ergebnisse, but on the way back, you're always innovating and learning on this way. Say teaching and now how, if you know if you did correctly. So we had this more or less on the talk before, because people are everything you need in your organization, because they have the ideas and the motivation and so on, and keep it alive, and they need skills and competency and make your organization work. And these are, let's say, the keywords from the EFQM model about skills and competencies of people. And I just found it interesting because they call it that you use the knowledge of the people. It's post-industrial revolution model. I have no real idea what it is, but it is a post-industrial revolution phase now. Okay. It's easier, so that's a book about building a great team, and they say choose the right people for the right roles. And they don't talk about so much and the right training, because that is something you can discuss. If you say you have very good people for the right role, they can do it by themselves. They're so good educated that you could say they can keep this training process for themselves. You don't have to do it as a company. That is an idea I will show you later. We have for hundreds of years in Europe with educations. And we have, let's say, new points that we have to control it very tightly, what people learn and how we assess it. So, and the question is, are they correctly trained? You have to define for what? Belly dancing, soccer playing, rugby playing, or in your laboratory, for example. Some people want to do an English course for a week in New Zealand. And on the other hand, probably they can read better literature afterwards. So maybe it has not to be New Zealand, but you can decide what is the right training, and you have to decide and have to define what is the right training for your people. And you have also to define what they have to know in the future. So you have to plan the training in advance for whatever has to be done. So the question is there an education plan in your lab? We had the questions before, so let's say I'm in the past with my talk now. And another question is, at least in German hospitals, is there money available for training or not? And probably in other countries too. It's easier for internal training, not so easy for external training. Do you educate all your people in your lab, or do you select special groups, especially for external training? Has something to do with fairness as well. And do you involve the people in your planning? Or do you say, I'm the director, I make a plan for the year, so it has to do with transparency and acceptance of the planning. And you have to decide what kind of training you need, courses, external, or colleagues as mentors, and self-learning, and everything there is internal. Do only once or both. We had the question 2 before. And that's just an example from our lab and hospital. So you can see what we can spend for external training a year. For academic stuff, we can spend about 1,200 euros per person a year, and for the technicians, about 160. These are not all technicians here. The list is longer, but PowerPoint slides are not longer. So let's say about 20 to 30 of 50 technicians are trained a year. And usually you see the academics are allowed to go to Liverpool. Technicians stay in Berlin. Not all the time, but sometimes. But I wrote there rather simple, just an Excel sheet and listing which date and which kind of training. You can do it much more professional. That is here from EFQM training course in the industry. You can define program blocks and people blocks. Let's say you have here top management, middle management, schedulers, and so on. And you can say when has it to be done, the training, in advance or just at the time you want to have the people trained before you. And you can define the groups and so on. So that's much more sophisticated. But same question as in the beginning, is one or other method more successful or not? We have not so much measures for this. You have seen this before in Professor Plebani's presentation, and mostly we do direct observation for assessment of training and not so oft examinations. And I will tell you something from Germany, why this is maybe, people don't like it to be examined if they are, let's say, grown up and in full work for years. This is maybe often a problem to do examinations every week with every person. Another thing is you can do yearly talks to your with your co-workers and say review their past performance, recognize their success, identify their skills and competencies, and say what we want to do in the future with new skills and competencies, and identify what has to be done to develop the people in the way you want to have them developed. This is also from the EFQM model, so you can define levels of competence and points they should be able to do your people, and that's mixed up English and German, but the first lines are you have a person, his learning abilities level 5, and application forecast also, and he's very good in solving problems. This is this line here, 6, and this is defined for different competency levels. We don't have to read everything, just that the lowest level is easy or the basic skills, and the highest level is that he's specialist in his field and state of the art. And you can do, once back here, a sheet for every person and says he's able to do this and this. And I think it looks neat, at least. And what is the difference? And because at least in Germany we experience some reluctance to this, let's say, observation, assessment of people. And I think one point is that we have a very long history in Europe of apprentice, journeyman, mastership. And if you went this way and you are master, you are, let's say, you have to keep, you have to, oh, what's the German word, the English word? Verantwortlich? You have to be responsible for your own, and not other persons have to tell you what to do or what not to do. And why is that right for the laboratory too in Germany? Because also all our medical technologists are trained in this way. They have an apprenticeship in a state school, state examination. There are activities subjected to technicians, no other people are allowed to do it. They have the chance to develop later, like say a journeyman, not so tightly regulated as with the craftsmen. And what is about lifelong learning? It's more or less optional for technicians in Germany. There is a regulation within federal guidelines for quality management in your lab, that you have a concept, you must have a concept, but it's not really good defined for technicians. What is with doctors? It's much more regulated for doctors in Germany, like mostly in the Western world, I think so. First, during your training period, your journeymanship, you have to document yearly what you learned, signature of your master, that you learned the right stuff. I just want to show you problems in Germany. We have about 16 medical associations because we are a federal republic. Every medical association is allowed to do a little bit what they want in smaller parts. And after that, if you're a specialist, oh, sorry, no. And we have assessment of this training in Germany. We had this 2 times, 2009 and 2011. All specialties were asked, what is about your training? Was it good? Did you get knowledge transfer? How was your learning culture in your hospital? Management culture, culture of error prevention, decision making, company culture, evidence-based medicine, and overall. And what you can see, at first, we had only 28 persons in laboratory medicine participating, not so much, and we could do better. 1 is best here, and 6 is worst, and we are just in the middle with 3, not so good. I would prefer to be at 2 or between 1 and 2 if you do a good training to the people. And we have regulations for continuous medical education. It's a code of social law, number 5, and there are paragraphs, and you have to prove every 5 years that you had continuous education, and there are penalties if you don't have. First, you have salary cuts. You have 2 years' time to do it later, to bring these credit points you need, and they cut your salary by 10 and by 20%, and after 2 years totally, if you don't do it. And you have a certification of this training. It's done by the local medical associations in 1 hour or 45 minutes are 1 credit, and you have to earn 50 credits, and then you get a certificate. It's mine here. And it was from 2010, so next time I have to bring it 2015, so I earn normal money today. But what are the limits? It's rather a formal process. There's no real checking if what you learn is helpful for your work. It's just the one who makes, like say, symposium like this, says we have this program here and this are 8 hours, and someone in this medical association says, okay, you're getting 8 points. And no one checks what I'm talking, or Professor Plebani is talking, or who else. So, and there's no proof of success. So you can also, I could join 250 hours urology programs. Probably not so relevant for laboratory medicine, but I would get this certificate for this. And then just to check our data with the Swiss data, there was an evaluation of Swiss company, if they evaluate their external training or not, and looks a little bit like our results. No evaluation, 19%, informal interview or just direct interaction with the person, 54%, or structured evaluation in 40%. So what is the status quo in Germany? We have highly educated, specialized staff in the laboratory, and the education until you are specialist is tightly regulated with success control, state examinations. After that, the continuous medical education is less tightly regulated, and So I'm not so sure if it's always successful. How can you evaluate, or how you know that your evaluation is good? There are several methods for evaluation, hundreds. And I think this EFQM model is at least a good structured model to look how far your people are trained. But I searched a lot and talked to people. There's no real studies to measure success of training. There is a lot of instruments to say, okay, I thought once this person is able to do this work, but I don't know if this is the only way to do it. If you learn it by its own or whatever, what is the success of the company if I do it this way or this way? There are no studies I found for this way. And so these are my conclusion, and I really appreciate that Professor Plebani did the talk, but I'm kind of sad that Dr. Burnett is not here because my last two pictures are just for him. So thank you for your attention. Almost nobody is sleeping. No, just wait. So you're at least as good as the Queen is, because this should be the Queen. And she wishes us a good symposium for the rest of the day. So thanks a lot.
Okay. Thank you. We have just a few moments for some comments and discussion. One thing that I noticed in Dr. Plebani's talk was this one section in the ISO standard, and I've seen it for a while, but it says that we need to encourage that part of the competency of our staff is that we set up for improvement of quality and encourage productive relationships. It's a really interesting one because I haven't seen great examples of that built into a training program about encouraging productive relationships in the lab. Does anybody have an example of something that they're able to do in their lab that sort of meets the spirit of that section of the ISO 15189? Oh, Andy, right here. Midway up, midway. Red blouse.
I don't think it's been done in relation to the ISO standard, but in the UK there is a program for the pathologists run by the Department of Health. They develop leadership among the pathologists, and it is one big issue they focus, how people or the new leaders are actually developing a productive relationship with different type of colleagues, so you get the most of, making most of it.
It was one of the things. Thank you. One of the things I was thinking in this was, we spend time in technical training. We spend time in those things because we assume that's what our technicians and technologists need. But how often do we spend time in sort of the soft skills and the communication and those sorts of things? I know just for our organization, Bio-Rad is a very technical organization. We sometimes need to challenge ourselves more, working with people in our operations floor and manufacturing and things like that have very technical jobs, our chemists, et cetera, and spending time in the soft skills and spending time in their leadership and management and things like that.
One of the biggest problems we have in our lab is the staff who have been working there for quite some time, maybe 15 years or so, are quite sort of defensive about having to fill in sheets of paper saying that they can do their job when they've been doing it for such a long time. I just wondered if anybody had a way of getting around that. And I think a lot of it does come down to communication, and I don't really know why they're so defensive about it, but I feel there must be a better way of getting around that.
So just to paraphrase, it may have been difficult to hear from the back, but we have a lot of people who've been doing the particular job for a long time. And as we heard a little bit, it's sort of this, I've been doing this, I know how to do my job, and maybe not so open to maybe the direct observation or things like that in assessing their competency. So the question was really, do people have any novel techniques for sort of breaking through that paradigm? Niels?
Thank you. Well, I don't think it's a breaking through, but realizing what's going on outside your lab makes it necessary to pay attention to skills also for individual people. So if you notice that in your lab people are not cross-trained, for example, or lack certain skills, and other labs in your region are more competitive, that may be technically or perhaps also commercially, then there's only one solution, and I find it very easy to explain to our people why there is a need for continuous education, and no matter what form you choose.
So like the soccer example,
Yeah.
you know, people laying
Yeah.
down in exasperation over the 1-0 loss.
We
right?
have to do
You can
something.
tell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Good.
I would like to address a bit different issue. Right now there's very big discussion in the physician field about the Euronorm 16372. It's about cosmetic surgery, and this norm should describe how cosmetic surgery should be done within Europe, and most of the European physicians' chambers were against this norm. They said this is physician work and it should not be regulated by a European norm. In our field, we are also physicians, and we are working with with patients, and we must pay attention that the norm does not address all issues about education. This is the physicians' chambers, or in the different countries, or Royal College of Physicians, or whatever, which should say how this education should be done. I think it's very dangerous when it's put into a norm, then we are no longer a medical field. Yes. It's not about how we do it, but how it's written down in the ISO norm. Yes.
Right. Any comments on that?
I believe that regarding the IS, the standard, the international standard, is exactly the. We tried to do exactly the different from which you are saying, to put some medical issues inside our profession, and to don't reduce laboratory medicine only to technical things regarding calibration and coefficient of variation, but looking at clinical outcomes. So in this sense, I don't understand why this should be a norm against the medical profession. I don't understand your point. I totally understand what happens for other surgical things, but in my mind, first of all, the standard is mainly a voluntary tool for improving our practice in everyday work. Second, the accreditation seems to be a tool for making the competition between different laboratories based not only on costs, but on quality issues. So I strongly support this view. I hope you understand this point.
Yeah, it's like this cosmetic surgery thing. We are not talking about medical work, because cosmetic surgery is not medical thing. And suddenly all these physician chambers come up and say, we do not allow that the European norm goes to this cosmetic surgery, you know? And we in our field, I think we are unambiguously a medical field, and we go and say, oh, we allow technical people to address how we train our people, how we check the competency. Yeah, this is really strange.
So I think you're saying it's taking it out of the professions and putting it into a regulatory structure that isn't recognizing the professional sort of expertise, I guess. Okay. Any other comments? Two?
Just to speak briefly to the question from the back, which I think was a good one about staff being unwilling to be assessed in something they've been at for a long period of time. I had the pleasure yesterday to visit a reference laboratory where they perform the same procedure 3 times in sequence to get one result, and their preferred goal is to get different people to do that sequence each day. And one of the things they're looking at is, does each person do it differently? Are there any local changes that in individuals? To a certain extent in our laboratory, we try and getting someone to check your calculations, getting someone to check your manual data entry. It's that process of saying, I'm not infallible, I may make a mistake, but if I made a mistake, I want someone to catch it for me, so I'm not going to get my butt kicked if something goes wrong. But that attitude of saying that it is possible that I might be doing something wrong, and please can I share the responsibility of that, I wouldn't say we've got it right, but I was certainly very impressed in that reference lab with that concept of saying, I always want to check that what I'm doing is right, was a very powerful concept about not being resistant to review, but encouraging review to make sure that you got it right.
And we had one over here.
I can also empathise with the idea of a resistance to individual assessment as well, and we had a sort of two-pronged approach when we introduced this about sort of 18 months ago. And one of it was to explain at the time we were looking at the ISO standards as opposed to the CPA standards, and explain that there's more detail required and more evidence required, we felt. But the other thing was the sort of the carrot approach as well. And in the UK, CPD is essential for HPC registration. We had a number of colleagues who were really struggling to actually have anything documented. And what we effectively did was say, well, we'll do this for you. And we got all of the activities accredited by the institute in the UK. That wasn't easy. There were, it's not been easy to do that. And they're racking up CPD points, and the points mean prizes, and everybody can be happy that we are looking after that for them, and we can all, provide them with their evidence. And I think that has helped a little bit as well. So.
Very good. Any other last comment? We'll move into our next group. Thank you both, Dr. Pitts and Plebani.